Okay, now continuing on with our angles, today we're going to talk about angle relationships. So there are types of angles. There are adjacent angles, which share two things. They share a common vertex and a side. So I'm going to put they share a side and a common vertex. For example, angle HAG, which would be this angle right here, and GAM, which would be this one right here, share a common vertex A, so vertex A, and they share this side right here, which is ray AG. So the vertex they share is A, the side they share is ray AG. This one over here, we have angle TIF, which is this one here, TIF, and FIG, which is this one over here. So the vertex that they share is I, and the side that they share is ray IF. Okay. Okay, here we go. Froze up. All right. So here we go. We are talking about adjacent angles. So we need angles that are adjacent to angle 1. So here is angle 1, and it has two adjacent angles. Notice that it shares a side with angle 4. So angle 4 is adjacent. And it shares a side over here with angle 2. So it also shares a side with angle 2. Same thing with angle 2. So here's angle 2. Angle 2 shares a side with angle 1. So they share a side with angle 1. And it shares a side with angle 3. All right, now we have angles that can be considered congruent. This is a 60-degree angle, so obviously these are not congruent angles, but they are complementary, which means two angles, so two angles that add up, oops, I guess A would be good, that add up to 90 degrees. For example, 30 plus 60 equals 90. Now, congruent angles mean angles that are equal. For example, when you have vertical angles, so you want to look for an X. And what happens is the ones that are across from each other are the ones that are equal. So this angle is equal to this angle, while this angle is congruent to this angle. All right. Then we have supplementary angles. So these are the ones that add up to 180. So for example, 60 plus 120 equals 180. So these would be supplementary. And then you have angles that are considered linear pairs. A linear pair means they are adjacent and they make a line. So it's two angles for pair that make a line. For example, angle MAN, which would be this angle right here, and NAG, which would be this angle here, they add up to angle MAG. So MAN is 150 plus NAG is 30. Together they add up to 180. All right, so now we're going to name the complementary angles. So complementary means 90, so 90 degrees. So angle 2 and angle 3 will add up to 90. So angle 2 plus angle 3 equal 90 degrees. Supplementary, that means they add up to 180. So which two add up to 180? I look over here and I see that 60 and 120. So angle 2 plus angle 4 equal 180. All right, now we have a couple of true-false. Is it true or false? All adjacent angles are linear pairs. Well, this is very false. For example, I could make an angle over here. So I'm going to just draw this picture right here. I'm going to call this angle 1 and this angle 2. Notice angle 1 and angle 2 are linear. I'm sorry, adjacent. Angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent. Angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent, but not linear. They are adjacent, but not linear. Now, all linear pairs are adjacent. This one is true because they're a linear pair. So that means they make a line, and it's a pair of angles. So this would be angle 3 and angle 4. Angle 3 and angle 4 are adjacent. They are adjacent and linear. All right. Now, looking at this picture, we're going to name two linear pairs. So I could name two linear pairs. So two angles that are side by side that make a line. So I'm looking at angle 1 and angle 2. Well, there's more than just one in here because I also have this line that goes right through here. And notice angle 2 and angle 4 make a line. So angle 2, ooh, you can't see that. Angle 2 and angle 4. There are others. For example, we have 3 and 4 also make a line. So I could just add that, angle 3 and angle 4. And then 1 and 3 do the same thing. So angle 1 and angle 3. And then, let me erase this. So now using the same picture, two sets of vertical angles. Remember, look for the X. So I see that 2 and 3 are across from each other. So angle 2 and angle 3 are vertical. And then I see that angle 1 is across from angle 4. So angle 1 and angle 4 are vertical. So remember, linear pairs equal 180. Vertical angles are congruent. All right, so now we're going to do these last four examples. It says determine the relationship of the angle, whether it's vertical or linear, because if it's vertical, we're going to set it congruent. So let me get rid of the box here. So vertical angles are congruent, linear pair equal 180. So I'm either setting them equal or adding them together. So first of all, let's look at this. We know this is a linear pair because we have two angles that make a line. So since they're a linear pair, that means I add them together and set them equal to 180. So angle 2 plus angle 1 equals 180. So they want me to find angle 2, so I'm looking for angle 2, plus I know angle 1 is 120 equals 180. So I'm going to go ahead and label this 120 degrees. So if I subtract the 120 from both sides, I get that angle 2 equals 60. So angle 2 is 60 degrees. Okay, now over here, I look for the x, and I see these guys are vertical. So I know that since this one's 120, I know this one down here is also 120 because they're equal. Now I got to figure out what these two are. Well, I notice that these two right here make a line, so therefore that makes them a linear pair. So if this one is 120, then this one has to be 60 because we just figured that out over here. So that makes angle 3 60 degrees. Well, if it's 60 degrees, then so is angle 1 because they're vertical. So when you have an X, if you know one, you know them all. All right, last two. First of all, what type of angles do I have? So what's the relationship between this angle and this angle? Well, I have two angles that make a line, so that makes them a linear pair. That makes them supplementary, so that means I'm going to add them together and set them equal to 180. So 4x plus 5x is 9x. Divide both sides by 9. And I find out that x is 20. Now over here, I have the relationship between these two. They're across from each other. So I know they're congruent, so I know they're vertical, which makes them congruent. So that means if I set them equal, 7x minus 8 equals 3x plus 20. So solving for x, I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. I get 4x minus 8 equals 20, because that canceled out. And then I'm going to add 8 to both sides. So I get that 4x equals 28. And then I will divide both sides by 4. And I find that x is 7. Okay, so that wraps up this lesson. We'll do more practice when we get back to class, so I'll see you then.